Paradise Paradox, Kurt Robinson, live and direct. I'm not coming to you perfect, but I am coming to you with something to blow the top off your head. This is how I lay it down. I'm not playing around. I fuck your mom so hard she started making baby sounds. This is how the divine light of the sun shines and rays down, making you feel like you're just a strange clown. But this is the divine light, and I'm gonna make it shine right. Coming down, put you in the spotlight, the limelight. You can feel that everything is right tonight. Perfect. I'm gonna shine till you're blind. Making it cool. This is how I do what I do. They used to call me Chudzu. Now I'm back in version 2. Version 2.0 with the coolest foe, Paradise Paradox. Welcome to the new show. So, check it out. This episode, I've got my old buddy, Luke Petersen, and we're talking about some interesting topics about how he used to be a skeptic of all paranormal phenomena, but slowly after having some experiences with him, he has to question what's really going on and what are the borders of our knowledge in this world, and if there's something going on which perhaps people just don't have a good explanation for at the moment. So remember, you can jump onto Steemit. If you can follow us and upvote us on Steemit, that will help us out a lot. Check out Steemit. Steemit is a platform, a blogging platform, where you can jump on and create content, get paid for it, get paid to curate content as well. So it's Steemit, steemit.com/@paradise-paradox, or you can follow me on there too, at Churdzu, that's CHURDTZU. Aaron's on there too, though he's not posting much, but he's on there at BattleAZ, BattleAYZEE. So we appreciate your donations as well. You can jump over to donate.theparadiseparadox.com. We appreciate all of that good Bitcoin, sweet Bitcoin juice that's coming in, because it helps us maintain our standard of quality and produce a better show for you guys. Much appreciated. We love you guys, and let's get into it. Yeah, so you were saying how you like to watch these videos and research about the supernatural, paranormal, but you have this conflict because you try to stay skeptical.
Yeah, it's just my skeptical mind. I think, I try to have an open mind, and if I see something, my mind will be like, well, that's very easy using this equipment and that equipment, and doing a blurring effect on the camera, for example, and pulling chairs with strings. But sometimes you're like, fuck, all right, that's creepy. And I know that you've said yourself many times that you've experienced supernatural kind of feelings.
Well, I wouldn't describe them as supernatural. I mean, I might describe them as weird.
Yeah.
Supernatural, I think, is a loaded term, because it's like, if you say something supernatural, you're kind of precluding it from existing, because we live in a natural world. If something is supernatural, that's like saying it doesn't exist. But these things, in my experience, they do exist.
How about we use the term supernatural as, we can twist it into like, the supernatural just means, ghosts and things like that. And like when I think of supernatural, I don't think of it like that. I just think of something it's kind of unexplained,
Yeah, well,
and it's a
that's why people use the term paranormal.
yeah. Okay.
Or
We can use we can do that. Like I think okay. I had a kind of a bit of a paranormal experience when I was living in Newcastle. I had an entire apartment building to myself for a good month because I was one of the first few tenants in the building, and it was an old building in Newcastle that used to be a gay bathhouse, and I'm sure it's true. It's true, man. And that
How do you convert a gay bathhouse into an apartment building? I know there's one building in Newcastle which used to be a schoolhouse, but now it's an apartment building. That kind of makes sense because you have a bunch of classrooms. But with a gay bathhouse, I mean,
they
how
have.
do you?
I don't know. I mean, they don't know, man. They have rooms, but they're all very different. They're all very. It's so weird. The architecture of the building is so weird. Like all of the, I've been in a lot of the rooms, especially Dan's. But no, like all the rooms, they're very different. Very, the bathrooms are all over the place. When you see like new modern buildings, there's a uniformity to it. There's a sterile sort of structure, like this is here, and copy and paste.
McDonald's. McDonald's version of an apartment building.
It's not a copy and paste thing. It's more like It's more like if I was to think of it like an architectural labyrinth, and a little bit like that.
Okay, so that sounds creepy. Just to begin with.
A little bit.
So I guess so. It's kind of like it's a bathhouse, but I mean, it's meant to be like for people to be intimate.
Yes, it had rooms.
So that's why there's so many rooms.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And
so I mean, but it's not really a bathhouse, or I guess it did have baths.
Yeah, but like this was like a long time ago, a very long time ago. And I had being there by yourself for a week. I don't know if it was my mind sort of playing on things or, but I felt things. I saw things, shadowy things that I'm like, I didn't think that, kind of like auditory hallucinations, like, how you think, I didn't imagine that. I didn't imagine saying that. It's like, you think you're going insane late at night. You're just tired, but a bit different. Kind of shadowy things. I was there for a week, and it challenged me a little bit. And
so, did you have any events which particularly stood out to you as something where you would say that was truly weird, that was truly unexplained?
There was a dream I had where it was extremely scary. Just like a girl's face, and it was just looking at me like it was just so weird. It's very difficult to explain, but I did pen it down straight after it happened because, when I woke up, I saw the same thing except in the real world,
like in the darkness.
Yes, and it freaked the fuck out of me, and I've never had anything like that, so it's people listening, or they might think lack of sleep, it's bullshit, whatever, but me,
sleep paralysis, old hat. I mean, you can explain things away with those type of explanations, but I don't think I think the more interesting and the more important thing, the more perhaps even the more scientific thing to do is to ask the questions. Like, do we really know what happened? And in some cases, I'd say, well, I don't know if we did. I mean, I remember the first times, the first couple, once or twice that I started telling you about ghosts, and you were like, "No, I don't believe in that. You know, that's nonsense," or you know, you didn't buy any of my arguments. But I guess, I guess after seeing a few of these things, you have to start to question. I mean, I've had things in even to the extent where I wake up with scratches on my leg, and I'm like, no, that wasn't there the night before. Something, you know, and it couldn't have been just like riding on my bike and like a brand scratching me, because it was, I mean, there were too many and too spread out across my leg, and how could I not have noticed such a thing? Very, very weird, and you know, intense dreams and seeing things and feeling presences in the room. Very strange events.
Yeah, I guess you know, when you have an experience like that, it makes you feel a bit, I don't know, like it's a bit of a glitch in the matrix, if that's one way to put it. Yes. You're like, what the fuck? Like, that's not supposed to be there. It's, it's like, and when you're a you know, skeptic and hardcore atheist, whatever, you don't even want to tell people.
Yes, that's right. I mean, you can't tell your skeptical friends about that. They think you're off your rocker. But this is part of the thing. I think if people have, you know, it's good and healthy to be skeptical. But I think if you take it to this hard degree where you're like, no, you know, such a thing just cannot happen, then I think it's partly a kind of psychological thing where you have this intense need for security. Like, I need to know what is going on in this world. I need to have this fixed set view, and reality must comply with that. But for a long time, I probably at one stage in my life, I had that need, but now I don't. And, you know, it's scary to live in a world, to think you live in a world where maybe you don't understand everything that goes on.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. Like, it's funny that I wanted to experience something paranormal. You know, we were going to go on a trip to New Zealand at one point. I had the camera ready and stuff. We just never did it. Just never did it. Like, it's a bit dumb, because I've been, you know, now I went to a haunted house in Junee and went and checked out haunted places. The thing is, you know, we probably just needed a bit more action. I probably should have booked the flights and stuff, and probably just been like, let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
I've got a different attitude now about that stuff, and it's I'd still like to go to New Zealand and actually, you know, do something like that. Have a holiday there and check out the haunted place that you wanted to go to.
Yeah. So that was my old housemate, Shayna, used to tell me these intense, like really intense ghost stories about, even including poltergeist, things moving, doorknobs turning of their own accord, and that sort of crazy thing. I mean, she even said that like plates were like flying around the room. I mean, I would kind of believe if plates like just, you know, shook themselves off the shelf, flying around the room. That's I can hardly picture it, but you know, maybe we live in a strange world. So she studied in a town called what was it called? Wanganui something? Wanganui. Yeah, we were going to do the Wanganui Witch Project.
Yeah, we were going to spend a week in there.
Interview people.
Yeah. Well, even if we experience something like, remember that video I sent you about the cave with the shaking chains and the voice?
Yep.
Yeah, like...
Yep, I was looking at that just the other day. Yeah.
Stuff like that freaks the fuck out of me. I
Yeah, that's a really good case. I mean, people should check that out. We'll put a link in the show notes.
yeah, definitely. Fuck.
Yeah.
And as a footnote, if people want to watch it, like do, his other videos have nothing to do with the supernatural. They have nothing
Yeah.
like, they're hours of going into mines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This one was terrifying. And
Yeah. So it's not like just someone has set up a YouTube account and just said, okay, I'm just going to make this one prank video, with just enough to make it look believable. No, the guy's been, the guy's credible.
Yeah.
The guy's been doing this for a long time, and that's his hobby and his passion.
yes.
And just happened that something very weird happened to come up on his camera.
The alarm as well, and that voice, and in tunnels that haven't been used for hundreds of years. It's it's
Super fucking creepy.
fuck yes. I mean, he ran, and he's a fully grown man. If that was in Australia, I'd want to know where that is. That's I'm at that kind of point.
Yeah.
There's still other stuff to experience, and there's a supposed haunted mansion. No, sorry, not mansion. Haunted psych ward in Sydney somewhere. But I mean, I went to a haunted house in Junee, which is supposedly the most haunted house in Australia. And I'm sorry to say to everyone, nothing happened. We tried. We snuck.
You did say something about interference with the electronic devices.
A photo? Yeah, there was a photo that happened, and I didn't know I couldn't explain it because it was on a phone. There wasn't any exposure or anything. You can't fucking have that on an iPhone. There was a person in the room in this photo that wasn't in the room, and it was instantly taken by someone, and they weren't a plant or anything. They were just a random person that was on the trip. It was weird.
How do you know it wasn't a plant?
Well, because she was awful, and she she was just, I don't know, I really don't, how you just know. That was such weird people. Like the guy and his sister that sort of did the place, they dressed up as olden day sort of people. With the guy looked like a pirate and the woman looked like an old maid or something. They walked around and there were just a bunch of, she was just one of the old ladies that sort of ventured there from Sydney with their hot daughter, and they got the photo. That's probably the only, we snuck a Ouija board in. We weren't allowed to do that, but we snuck one in. They have motion capture there. So if you go, we wanted to go in the middle of the night, we wanted to get out of our rooms and go for a walk around the place at night with nobody there, but it couldn't happen because they've got alarms and video cameras and shit, which sucked. We were still going to do it, but didn't have big enough balls to do it. I'm sure, if you were there, we probably would have figured out a way to sneak around them and get into the bulk of the house, because I slept there. I slept in that house, and a lot of people consider that to be quite crazy to do that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah. Well,
what about Maitland Jail?
In
Maitland Prison.
Been there twice now.
Yeah. Do you see anything there?
I went there in year 11, and I didn't like being alone in any of the cells at that point. I don't know why. I just didn't.
So just to give some background for our listeners, so this is a prison. It was a maximum security prison which housed one of Australia's worst serial killers, Ivan Miller.
Oh yeah.
And it's actually like 100 meters down the street from our
high school.
High school.
Man, and you can go there.
Yeah.
You can you can stay the night in that
Take a
place.
tour.
Yeah, dude. The second time I went there, though, I think it was just like we were walking around with an old prisoner who was our guide. You know, you could tell he was an old prisoner, but it was so festive because it was a birthday party. It's so weird.
Okay.
It's so weird that it was like it's like 11 o'clock at night, and there was just a bunch of children running around in this prison. It just wasn't the place for that. Like, maybe it was the mood. I just didn't feel it that time. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember I went there and they had like a little tour, short tour, and then they had like a creepy movie. And I remember I looked up because it's kind of like it's about what, 4 or 5 stories high, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. 3.
And of course, in the courtyard, you can see up onto the gangway of the other levels. And so I looked up and I saw like this shadowy figure walking along, and I was like, I pointed out to my buddy, and I was like, what's going on here? Like, they've got plants, like people walking around up there in dark clothing to creep us out. And the tour guide said to us later, no, we wouldn't do that. Like, that's not what we're doing here. We wouldn't pay people to go up and creep around. It's just not what we would do. And I believed him, actually, because, I mean, nothing similar happened later. So it wasn't like they made a big deal out of it, or like someone jumped out to give us a scare or anything like that. So I was like, hang on a second. What? Creepy silhouette on the 4th floor.
Yeah, like, I guess you can buy that because no one could take a photo of it, and like, obviously, as you said, it didn't jump out to try and scare you. It's just some random thing. So who knows, though? I mean, maybe they'd like, hey, that dude's looking over here, and they got like someone like, fucking sprinting along. But that's just me being crazy. It's kind of funny when if you're being skeptical, you can sound crazy yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is like, I remember I was thinking the other day about this case. I think it was on Larry King. Larry King's done a few specials about UFOs, and he gets some good, interesting guests who've had some weird experiences, and they're normally a little backed up, like they're credible witnesses, like pilots and radar men and stuff like that. And it was like this group of 3 military men, and I think they were all Air Forcemen. And they described how they saw this UFO, and at the time, the same time it was happening, one of them broke out his notebook and started taking notes, because that's like standard procedure. If something out of the ordinary is happening, that's what you do. He was trained to do that, and so it's like this weird light hovering, like just above the trees, and it comes along and it just like stops on a dime, and then goes off in a complete other direction, like 90 degrees. And it's always weird. With the Larry King specials, because he gets these highly credible witnesses, and then the skeptics that he gets on, they're basically completely ignorant about the subject matter. They think just because they're skeptics, they're qualified to talk about it, like they don't have to look at the evidence. Anyway, there's on this one, this neckbeard comes on, and he's like, oh, well, it's this process called confabulation. So what happened was you all saw the lighthouse in the distance, and then later when you talked about it, your stories kind of meshed together, and you got the average of them, and that's and now you all believe the same story. But I mean, how does that explain it? That's a very questionable explanation. And nobody would ever use that explanation in an ordinary circumstance. Like, you would never say, "No, you didn't see a deer jump out from behind the the tree. You just like three of you thought you saw something, and then you discussed it, and you came up with a story, and then you all believe it because that's the story that you came up with. Nobody would ever say that.
No, that's weird. That's I that exact thing you were talking about, the stopping on a dime, and I mean there are videos of that, and
Yes.
that explanation that guy gave with the lighthouse is absolutely retarded. It's stupid.
Yeah.
What the fuck? It's like, look, guys, you're just fabricating memories, and other people are believing you for
you
it.
can say that about absolutely anything, and that's why it's such a weak thing.
But
like you could tell me I went to the mall today, and I'll be like, you're just confabulating.
yeah, you thought it was a mall, but it was a house, and it was big. This like, well, okay.
You're obviously misinterpreting the data.
Okay. My cousin told me that he saw that, the orb things that go like stop, and he said like it could be some kind of natural phenomena like electricity balls or something, whatever.
Ball lightning.
Yeah. That's.
But ball lightning is basically, to me, ball lightning, it was a UFO. Nobody really understands it, It's a huge mystery.
It is.
And so even if you say ball lightning, well, I mean, a ball lightning apparently can just like come up out of the clouds or whatever, go right through the glass on your window, and then just sit there in the middle of your living room, and then just explode. And you're like, what just happened here? And that's apparently supposed to be scientific just because you call it ball lightning. I mean, that's a fucking mystery if ever I heard one.
Yeah, like I remember I just posted a video of one of the things on Facebook, and people are experiencing this thing. They're like, holy shit, like this is fucking crazy. And he said, it could be ball lightning. But, my cousin, he's not one of those big skeptic people. He's just, he fucking loves nature. I mean, he's kind of like you, loves exploring places and going for bushwalks and shit. But, he's got a fascination with hurricanes and I guess weather effects come into it. But I mean, that could be his bias as well. So, but yeah, to me, I was like, that looks like fucking aliens. It looks like an alien craft to me. But stealth jets look like fucking aliens to me. I'm a dummy. What do I know?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we can't jump to conclusions, but there are definitely weird things that go on in the sky. And, well, we saw a lot of UFOs when we were out in the desert on Peyote.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to say, well, you're high on hallucinogens. But I do wonder, because, I wonder, actually, if we went out there and we were completely sober, would we still see them? And I would lean towards yes. So that would be an interesting experiment to try sometime, and maybe bring a camera and get some footage of it. But I also saw like I guess you call it a will-o-wisp.
What's that?
Like a floating light. And
okay.
It was like eye level, and it's like rolling around like this, and it just rolled right past me like a little fairy or something.
That's amazing. Like Tinkerbell.
Cool. Yeah.
It's so funny watching you do this. It's like, the low res kind of makes your hand look like it's like trailing with sand, and it's like I'm thinking if this was a video game, you'd be in like 20 frames per second, using a bad anti-aliasing program with a bit of motion blur. It's like it's so funny, like the way. Sorry to go off on a tangent here, but that just completely
Luke Tangent Petersen, that's what they call it.
Yeah, that's what you call me. If I don't have my guitar, sort of, but like, the theory of this world could be a simulation. The way videos video games are going. They're loving their open worlds. They're becoming more lively. People, the AI have routines, and they get interrupted by you. It's amazing sometimes to step into these little worlds, and you can see an evolution that's pointing towards possibly being able to simulate the actual world.
Yes.
I mean, it's probably a very far way off, but
I don't think it's that far.
it's getting quite real. Like
Yeah.
I'm playing a game, Mafia 3 at the moment. It's very, quite realistic, and Watch Dogs 2 is coming out soon. It's all about hacking and stuff. And I was looking at the gameplay and set in San Francisco, and I'm thinking that was the first one to sort of make me think it's getting there.
Yes. Well, especially interesting, I think, is No Man's Sky.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's procedurally generated, and the world is fucking huge, like quadrillions of planets. And so procedurally generated, like it's made from a formula. Like the worlds are they're not designed by a human hand. Nobody has to sit there and think about what's going to be on them. It's just a few variables play into it, and it uses this algorithm to create the planets and the life on them, and the trees and all that stuff. So it's kind of cool, and as well, it's like the thing is, I mean, the potential for the worlds exist right now before you discover them. But then it's only when you discover them that they actually become real, that they actually become rendered, and something that's there. So it's kind of like the world adapts to the level of detail that's necessary, which is like when you're having a dream. I remember reading a dream log, and this guy was like, suddenly I realized that what was in front of me was, or what I was looking at was the only part of the world that existed. Like it was being created before my eyes, and that's the only part that was real. So
that's cool.
Yeah, and I've had that. I remember I had that feeling when I was smoking weed, and I said to my companion that at that moment it felt like, yes, only the things in front of me were actually there. There was nothing behind me.
You panicked.
Absolutely nothing.
Did you panic?
I didn't at that point, but
yeah, I just.
But it's an odd feeling, yeah.
Yeah, I think, did I send you that story about the guy that actually he got knocked out in a parking lot, and he had this intense dream of his entire life. He had, he met his wife, they had a baby, he had his own home, but there was a lampshade in the lounge room that just did not seem like it belonged. And he said he sat there for days looking at this lampshade, and it was like moving and doing weird things. And his wife's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I can't stop looking at this thing." And then, all of these memories and things about his wife and his daughter and things, he's like, this one thing just completely shattered the entire world, and he woke up.
Wow.
Woke up from his dream, and he mourned the loss of that woman and his daughter.
Yes.
And he had to have counseling for about 2 years, and he's still recovering from not the blow. He's recovering from losing that family and those memories. Now, isn't that cool?
Shit.
Like it.
That's fucking a little scary.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
now, like all over me listening to that story.
Same.
That's super creepy and super interesting.
I mean, Have you had anything remotely like that?
Yes.
I have too.
Yes.
Like I've had I remember when I was 14, I had a dream that I met this blonde girl at like a camping ground, and we became best friends, and I fell in love with her and woke up, and it was like a punch in the guts. To sort of know that that wasn't real, and it did upset. I felt this melancholy for about a week. What about you? What have you experienced like that?
Let's see. Here's a couple of things. I guess there's about three things. One thing was, I remember when I took ayahuasca, and at one point I asked ayahuasca, like, I guess she was talking about something like, be grateful just that you're here, just that you have this chance to have this life. And I must have asked something like, well, what would it be like if I weren't here, if I'd never been born? And she started telling this little story, or this little memory, this little vision. And it's like this girl, when I was 15, 16, this girl, Jane, used to come around, and she'd wear like this striped fluffy sweater, and she wore her hair in a ponytail, and she was kind of cute. She played the guitar, something like this. And ayahuasca's like, you remember Jane? I'm like, yeah, I remember. And she's like, right, because Jane doesn't exist. She never did. And I was like, oh. So the implication was, if I had never been born, I would be just like somebody's vision on an ayahuasca trip. Then
Poor Jane.
somebody, poor Jane. Then someone was talking about this on Steemit the other day, a similar story to what you just described, actually, like meeting this girl, and or he had he had this memory of a girl that he met in second grade, and she was his first kiss. But on reflection, it's like, hang on, there's no basis for this memory. And his entire life he'd had this memory in his mind, but then it's like that she was never there. There was never such a girl. And I have the same thing, actually. When I was in third grade, I didn't really have I didn't have any friends at school, really, I guess. But there was this one fellow who was kind of skinny, or kind of built, and wore his hair in a blonde mullet, and I can never remember his name, and he was my friend for a few months, and then, well, I don't really remember him moving away, but he just went. But no, that never happened.
Wow.
There was no such, or at least like what I can glean from my memory, I have to assume that this kid never existed.
It could be like, the imaginary friends people have, except you didn't tell anyone about him.
Yeah.
So, like, I always wonder about these imaginary friends, because I've never had one, and I don't know what it's like. So, I mean, you could have just kept this quiet from everyone because you just thought this person's real. Everyone can see them.
Yeah. Just assume it.
What did it feel like when you sort of found out that they didn't exist?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of weird because for years, I guess I've only had these two memories, and I guess the one memory, the first memory was like him picking on actually one of the few friends I did have at that stage, and calling him fat, and I was like, hey, stop calling him fat. And then just another memory, which is like, I don't know, me walking behind him to class or something like that. And that's the only memories that I can extract, apart from this general impression of like, yeah, this guy was my friend for a few months. But there's nothing I can back it up with. Very,
It's fascinating.
very bizarre.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's strange. It's like I'm trying to sort of think of why that your mind sort of conjured it up. Obviously, you may have been lonely, and
Yeah.
maybe you had this overweight friend, and you wanted to stick up for him somehow, and maybe the only way you could do it is in your head, and it. Yeah, I'm just trying to. It's like.
Yeah, yeah. But then the other thing is, I think what do you know about the Mandela effect?
Never heard of it.
Okay. So the Mandela effect is this idea. It gets its name because, well, let me ask you this: when did Nelson Mandela die? Or ballpark. You don't have to give me an exact date, but
A few years ago. But
yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a normal answer. That's what complies with reality. It was like 2013, I think, or 2012. But a lot of people, in fact, perhaps tens of thousands of people, have the distinct memory that Nelson Mandela died sometime between 1982 and 1988. He died in prison. And there were parades, and celebrities, Hollywood celebrities, came out wearing his prisoner number to show their support. Winnie Mandela was traveling the United States, giving talks and specific things about the parades in the streets that people noticed. All these kinds of things, very detailed memories. But of course, that couldn't be because Nelson Mandela was alive. And so a lot of people were very puzzled when Nelson Mandela got released from prison and then when he died a few years ago. So the question is, what's going on here? Like, why do so many people have these apparently false memories about events? And one explanation is they've either traveled between universes or they're recalling things from alternate universes. And so maybe when we have memories like this, then they're not actually false. They're just things that didn't exactly happen to us.
Wow.
Or things that we experienced and we crossed over, and now, we bring a little bit of that with us.
It's so funny. People listening to this are just going to grab their phone and put in the Mandela effect, because that's exactly what I would have just paused the podcast and been like, fuck yes, looking it up. And yeah, I've been talking about the multiverse theory for fucking years. I think it came from my interest in religions and the Big Bang and etc. Because when you get into those discussions, there's always a thing like, how did the universe begin to exist, etc. So you go into the cosmology, and then you see the models, and the many worlds model, the multiverse model is actually quite interesting, and actually has mathematics, real-time mathematics to kind of back up that. And what you're saying could potentially be, some people have kind of had contact with the different dimension, because supposedly we've got wormholes around us constantly, like in other dimensions. How many have they? Is it 11 that they've figured out? Is that it? Is there 11 dimensions?
Yeah, that's what they say they can guess might be
theorize
possible mathematically. But I don't buy into that so much, because it's like, well, what do your mathematics really have to do with reality? I mean, is it just something on a page? I don't know. It's like that video game you're talking about, No Man's Sky. There are humans that are trying to figure out the equation of the universe, and
Possibly, they might. Who knows? And then they'll find out that it's a simulation.
Yeah, complex. Well, that's why I brought up No Man's Sky, because I think if we wanted to create a simulation which is about as complex as this reality, we would do it with this kind of shortcut, with this procedural generation. And this is why I say, well, sometimes when you meet someone, and you might even meet them in a different city or maybe in a different country, but they have these very similar qualities to someone that you used to know years ago. Do you know the kind of thing I'm talking about?
Yep.
And you're like, hang on, my buddy was from Canada. This guy is from Scotland, but he has this kind of the same essence. And you're like, how can that be? Well, maybe it's because people in this world are procedurally generated, and the settings are kind of similar, and they come out like with similar personalities and similar facial features and that kind of thing. Thanks so much for listening to the Paradise Paradox. Kurt Robinson signing off. Just telling you, check out steemit.com/@paradise-paradox. You can check the link in the show notes, so you can jump onto Steemit and enjoy more great content from us, from Aaron and myself, among other many fabulous guests. And also you can follow me on Steemit at CHURDTZU at Churdzu. And Aaron's on there too at BattleAZ, BATTLEAYZEE. And also, we appreciate your donations. So head on over to donate.theparadiseparadox.com if you like what you've heard, if it's opened your mind a little bit, exposed you to some new ideas, made you reconsider or made you laugh. We appreciate every little Satoshi you can send us. So you can donate by PayPal, or Bitcoins, altcoins. Much appreciated. Donate.theparadiseparadox.com. We appreciate all those donations that are coming in there. It really does help us out a lot. So we love you for doing that, and we love you even if you comment and show us what you think, show us what you feel. We appreciate that too. So we like to have a back and forth with you guys. So don't forget to give us a like, a comment, and a share on Facebook. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you know. Tell us it's a cool show if you think so. So Kurt Robinson signing off. Have a good one. And remember to love yourself. Peace. Debunk.